Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of Princess Interrupted, the podcast. Today we have a priestess joining us. Everyone say hello. This week we have Natalie LaBonte on the podcast, and she's a priestess within the Magdalene-Isis lineage. And she's on the podcast today, and she's going to be talking about all of her experiences with Feng Shui. Natalie, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, Allison, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited for our conversation because I really think there's something deeply magical when we really explore the sacred tapestry between mind, body, spirit, and space and how they all work together. We're gonna have a fantastic time.
I'm so excited, and I can already tell the energy's moving because this morning when I was preparing for our conversation, I had to clean the entire place. I was honor my space, get my space into order, but it almost felt like this subconscious process of preparing for this conversation. Do you find that things like that happen when you're
Oh
energetic?
yeah.
Really?
Absolutely. Oh God. Yeah. Well, and heck, I was even going through my own process yesterday too, because just things throughout the holiday season, things just maybe accumulate, or you're just putting stuff here and there, and it just gives you that opportunity to recenter and realign and just be present with what is arising in your space and in your life right now, and being able to process that. And I think there's some magic in that.
I love that so much. So at the time of this recording, we are fresh into 2025. It is New Year.
Mhm.
There's snow behind me. So before we dive too much in, Natalie, tell us a little bit about your experience coming and finding Feng Shui, maybe embracing all of you,
Mhm.
this that you've taken, your spiritual business, we got connected actually through a corporate connection that we shared. So really fascinating. And I want to let people who are listening know who you are and how you've acquired this knowledge.
Absolutely. Yes. I also got my start in corporate, just like you. And I was in a Fortune 5 company for 7 years. It's so interesting. When I first started there, I honestly was my own worst enemy, and that I was making myself miserable the whole time. At the end of the day, I can remember being in the shower and rehashing conversations in my head, or taking things so personally when there was an escalated issue, something arising where another person, like a client, could be experiencing frustration, anger, overwhelm, and then making it my own. I realized it wasn't until I actually went through my spiritual awakening in 2014 and I started diving into the personal development space, because going through that spiritual awakening, it was just this really catalyzing moment of, I'm here for a reason. I don't quite know what this reason was, but I have to get a move on and start looking at energy in a totally different way.
But there's no going back. More of you starts to come through in your reality, and you can't
Yes.
pretend that this isn't who you are anymore.
It's like the illusion of reality, it just starts to melt away.
Believe me, this is a big part of my journey too, and it's very real. And a lot of people
Yeah.
relate to the experience. And if you don't have the tools and you're not equipped, you can feel really lost in your life.
Oh, 100%. At the time, I really didn't have any friends who were going through the similar process. I felt like I didn't really have anyone to turn to, but then I did end up finding local meditation groups and resources and starting to study different energy healing modalities. All of these were really helping me to start to feel safe, to turn within, to see, who am I? Why am I here? And what's a better way of being? In my corporate career, I realized I was the problem in many ways. It was nothing going outside of me. I realized taking on other people's emotions or energies was honestly not only a disservice to them, because then I couldn't problem solve the way that I needed to. It was a disservice to me. I started to learn throughout this spiritual development process and devotion to meditation and studying that peace and intention and being the compassionate witness, and to truly being of service and walking the way. that things started falling so much more gracefully into alignment. Like I would find that my meetings would go so much more smoothly. And I worked from home. I had the opportunity to really create an intentional space where I was focusing on the highest outcome possible, that was stepping outside of maybe what my ego structure wanted.
That
And I
is
think
the way.
that's really important.
It is the way for a lot of people. I look at my own journey where I was in corporate and doing Reiki before every meeting and setting intentions,
Yes.
because that really is the first step to embracing who you're here to be, is being that person now, even if it doesn't look like what your ego wants it to in the time frame that your ego wants it to happen.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. When I took that time, well, so when Feng Shui came into play, I can remember just being like, I want to be the light right where I am right now. How can I shine in a way that is going to make the biggest impact? And also be in that corporate dance. There's a way where you can meet people where they're at and not be too jarring or too much woo, quote unquote. There's ways that we can embody these practices
Absolutely.
and meeting people right where they are.
I always like to say that there's always a spiritual explanation in addition to a logical explanation. There are always ways that you can explain what's happening to someone where they're able to receive the message without whatever it is in our brain that, like, oh, I'm not.
It's that beautiful dance when we look at yin and yang energy, or the practical, the strategic, the logical. That's the yang, that masculine energy. And then with the feminine, receptive, the intuitive, and how they can beautifully in life, having them co-create and dance and weave together. That is the magic. That's like what we get to bring to the table when we are the priestesses within the corporate world, or the feng shui practitioners. It doesn't matter what you're doing, but you can beautifully bring those gifts no matter where you are.
These aren't separate. This is all who makes you who you are. I believe that you bring these services with space and with feng shui. How did you end up making the transition from corporate?
I had been on my path and journey for 3 years. And in 27, I was just sitting at my desk. And it was this moment where I had to get a pen and paper and just start writing, because it was this clearest download of information. There's been other times where this has happened, but it was just like this moment where the message that came through, that I was meant to be helping people honor and recognize the connection between mind, body, spirit, and space. Initially, I thought it was me going back to school for interior design. I was an art kid in high school. I was painting, drawing, graphic design, interior design, photography, you name it. I was going to go to college for interior design, but ended up going in a different direction. It was so interesting how this was arising and coming back full circle. I could see how every decision I had made, the interweavings with whether it's like my passions, my hobbies, my interests, the jobs that I had, the skill sets, like the gems that I had learned, how they were coming together. I had this come through, like, of often recognizing mind, body, spirit, space connection and working with people in that realm. So I could see the spiritual, like, an energy healing modalities that I've been studying and practicing. Feng Shui popped into my head, and I had heard of it, but like I didn't know anything about it. When I felt interior design, it was like a no. But once I started exploring Feng Shui, it was a yes all the way around. I loved that there's the balance between yin and yang and the interplay there, the beautiful weaving and connection with Mother Earth and with the cosmos, and just how everything affects and connects with one another. And how I even knew I was on the right path was that the symbol, so there's what's called the International Feng Shui Guild.
Okay.
And that's where I ended up finding like the course I was going to take. And so the symbol for the guild was a symbol I've been drawing in my notebook for 6 months prior. And I had
Wow.
no idea.
Wow, that is the power of intuition right there, Natalie. The thing that came to mind is like, this is what a full body yes looks and feels like.
Our ego structure can get in our own way, where we start questioning or doubting and looking for all the reasons to maybe not follow something. Over those 3 years at that time, it was all about leaning in. and really bringing that beautiful balance, that harmony between the practical and strategic, and then the feng shui. I want to share a little bit about my first feng shui experience. At the time, didn't even think I was going to be able to feng shui course because we honestly had no money. What was really interesting was from the time we bought our home in 2015, and from 2015 to 2017, we were draining money left and right. It wasn't the case before, but when I started exploring feng shui, I found that our bathroom was in our wealth and abundance squaw. And I always say this to my clients: you are not a victim to your home. That is not what feng shui should be teaching. I see it of just being curious and being like, oh, that's really interesting that we were attracted to a home where it had this configuration. And I got curious because I feel my home is kind of telling me, hey, while you are living here, there is something that's incongruent physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually in your relationship with money. And you need to look at this while you're living here. And that's exactly what I started doing. When I say physically, that's where like the practical comes in. You have to be clear on your budget and where is my money actually going? What's happening in my bank account or my credit card statements? You have to be willing to look at the tangibles and see what is being presented to me in the numbers. What decisions have we been making?
We've talked about something before where you can work with these energies and work with these things, but you need to do your part. You can optimize your wealth center in your home all you want, but if there's another area that's out of balance, this can still throw things off.
When I've clients in the past, if someone is maybe feeling called to get a wealth cure, there's a feng shui cure. It's like a little toad and you put a coin in it and you have it at your front door that's bringing in money. That's wonderful. But if you're still not addressing the other aspects of what is your relationship with money, what's the mindset you have with it? How are you actually spending it? Are you budgeting? These layers all interplay and connect with each other and just give you an opportunity to say, hey, I can actually come into right relationship with wealth and abundance now. That was exactly what ended up happening as I ended up moving into and exploring these different facets, like physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And then lastly, it was the space. At the time, we didn't have a lot of money, so I was able to do a few tiny little changes, like adding in a couple plants and red ribbon. But what was really magical was 2 weeks later, my husband ended up getting a way better paying job. And financial situations did a complete 180. And I knew something here that I want to explore.
For listeners, we are going to give you some tips on this episode, but I do just want to know, what was the shifts that you had to make?
We had to look at our bank accounts, our credit card statements, and we started to get really clear, like we were eating out way too much. Lots of unconscious spending.
Reminds me of what you were saying about you're not a victim to your space. You're not a victim to your money either.
No, no.
Both are essentially neutral. You know,
exactly.
to be like, this is doing this to me. You need to know you're playing because it's just a mirror of your own relationship.
100%. Yeah, it's so funny because then it was looking at the mindset piece, starting to become sober to belief systems I had grown up with. I can remember hearing you could lose it all anytime, or there was never enough money. You could win $1 million and that's
never enough. That core root, that's so insidious.
Absolutely.
That's the root problem a lot of people have. That was my experience too, was that never enough root. And it doesn't matter how much money you bring in, it's still never going to heal that. I love that. You were conscious and sitting with it, the naked truth.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where you have to be willing to go there. It doesn't mean that you are bad or that you should feel shame, but it's just being honest of, this has been what's been playing out in my life. Then I found another belief system where if I pretend there's not a problem, there's not a problem.
So many analogies with space, like sweeping it under the rug and cursing the door for squeaking, as opposed to fixing what's happening and realizing the same way that you're in control of your space, you're in control of your reality.
Absolutely. Yes. And starting to address those and saying, this isn't the way I want to live anymore. I'm going to be more conscious of my money. I'm going to take the time to actually be looking and working with my finances, and have taken time to do different money healing classes and different workings. But of course, it was looking at that kind of spiritual relationship with money where I even felt like I didn't have containers in ways like to welcome and be with money. It was like a continuous drain. In Feng Shui, when your bathroom is in your wealth and abundance wall, like it equates to the draining of money. The physical changes that I made in my bathroom at that time really, honestly, we're just solidifying a new way of being with money. It was actualizing in my physical environment that I wanted to have a healthier relationship with money, that I wanted to create space for money to come in. I could be with it because I even noticed this really interesting pattern that the moment like a paycheck would come in, I would pay bills immediately.
That's so beautiful. It almost sounds like it was a little bit ritualistic. Sitting in the space that represents, and I want to do, you recognize this area of my life is not working. It's tied to this
Mhm.
part of the house. This is known to be a problem for people who experience this. Let me sit and actually,
Yeah.
and you use the word cure, which I love because it is sitting and healing and curing and being with what's not working in exchange for the life
Mhm.
desire, the reality that you want. It seems like it was like a moment of taking ownership.
It was so beautiful because 2 weeks later, my husband ended up getting a new job, and our financial situation really did turn around just so beautifully. But there was that alignment, that congruence that had to come into play: mind, body, spirit, and space. It was
Wow.
necessary for it to happen. If I was just like, let me do some things in my bathroom, it wouldn't have the lasting effect. Getting to a core of really seeing what's happening here and having deep compassion for yourself and for your home in the process is so important, because I know for us at that time, our bathroom was honestly super sad. We hadn't touched it or done anything with it. And so it was really easy to just like hate on the bathroom. It's just physical reality giving you a beautiful opportunity to co-create together and to do healing work together and having compassion for both parties.
I was learning about the universal laws, and one of the laws is the law of correspondence. And basically it's saying that everything in your external reality is essentially a mirror for what's going on within you. I've noticed an inverse habit in my life sometimes where I will shift something and then I'll have a desire to rearrange things, like how we were talking about at the beginning of this call, where I immediately had the urge to spruce up and show some love for the space where I'm currently staying and honor this before even having this conversation. But it feels like there was something that shifted in me before I even made that change. Do you notice that too? Where something on a certain level and then you'll have the desire to do the space, even if it's not fully conscious?
Well, it's a
And
spiral. We're constantly evolving. Because it's a spiral, we're going to back and look at things at a different angle, in a different perspective. There's going to be a continuous evolution. I totally can see that experience of there can be a dance where maybe you're making a shift externally because there's been a shift internally, but then there may be another call for another shift externally because you're continuing to evolve internally. And it's this beautiful flow. Or even look at the lemniscate, the infinity, where one affects the other. It's just a continuous ebb and flow and exchange of energy, which
wow,
is,
so beautiful.
yeah.
What advice do you have for someone who, let's say someone's like, okay, this is my year. I noticed the blocks, I'm doing the work, but I want to incorporate using space to help me, either through a ritual, calling in money. Money we've been talking about, unless there's another one that comes to mind with this beginning of the year energy. But I want to give people who are listening something to help get their belief behind what's possible.
One thing that is really powerful and important is working with the entrance of the home. The entrance of the home is the mouth of chi, of blessings. It's a place where you are bringing your blessings into the world, and then you're bringing home blessings. It's this beautiful and sacred portal.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a powerful, powerful portal. Take time to assess what is happening in your entrance. For example, let's say you have two entrances. You have a true architectural front of your home, and you use another entrance that's your garage or something like that, a side door. I want to focus on the true architectural front one because you want it to have that empowering effect where you are consciously opening that door, even if it's a door that you don't normally use, taking the time to open the door and do a blessing ritual in your entryway is so important. It is such a beautiful pathway for anything to fall into our lives. It could be something as simple as some essential oil. When we're in that flow of love, or joy, gratitude, the blessings that then pour in are beautiful. So taking an essential oil and blessing your home, it could be oranges or lemons or something like that, and blessing the doorway.
Right.
That can be so powerful to invite in.
In my world, we do a lot with intentions. So we do a lot of
Mm,
about what we're desiring. And maybe I've heard you can greet your home when you come home. On this ritual that you're describing, I think maybe it could be cool to expand on this, tie in some intentions.
100%.
Or envisioning yourself experiencing these things and walking home to this, or even setting intentions for your home and be in the process of this space giving you safe harbor.
When we focus on blessings, it's also important to focus on what we're clearing out. There's the decluttering process, but also there can just be the energy. Let's say you had an illness or someone in your family had an illness, or even if you've had some great loss. I work with a lot of clients where they've lost a loved one, they've gone through a divorce, but kept the home. Ensuring that you're taking the time to release those traumatic imprints is incredibly important. If you've never done a blessing in your home or clearing in your home, taking the time to clear out any energy of prior occupants is incredibly important because we don't want to be repeating patterns. It's so interesting. I've spoken with realtors who've seen this as well. Let's say someone sold a home because they had a divorce, and then another couple buys it and moves in. Oftentimes, you'll see the disharmonious relationship patterning play out again. I've seen it even just in working with different clients, and that's where taking the time to do a clearing. And what's so beautiful too, you can clear a home in many ways. Setting the intention to say any lower vibrational energies, patterning from prior occupants. Thank you for the lessons, but you may leave at this time. And you can use a singing bowl if you have that, or even just playing certain high vibrational music on your phone, opening the windows. If you do feel called to use like a sage or incense, you could use blessed water, blessing your own water to purify the space. There's a myriad of ways, but it's so important to connect and see what way is calling forth right now. What does my home need to be cleared of this energy right now? And having a conversation with your home. It's so powerful.
When we start to respect these energies in our lives, we're talking about the home and we've been talking about money, where these are neutral energies. These are spaces where we fill it with our energy, our things. With money, you choose what you spend it on, you choose how you save it, you choose what you do with it. It's all just a reflection of what you're choosing to do. There's certain aspects of the container, but every element of it is ultimately up for you to design and choose what you want to do with it. And respecting the energy and neutralizing it and getting into this place of harmony and peace. That sounds so powerful.
When we get clear on this intention, and when we go through the process of clearing out, and that can be energetically, it can be physical items as well. Let's say you haven't gone through ever, there's probably going to be items in your life that just no longer reflect who you were, and it can almost be a baggage that we continue to keep on. The energy truly feels lighter when we create that space, and then That's when we can invite in the blessings after we go through that clearing of really being intentional, and that you can use your intuition, connect with the home and see what way do you want to be blessed. Do you want to be blessed through spraying a beautiful rose water around the home? Do you want to be blessed with an incense or a singing bowl? You can actually put your intentions into a singing bowl and go around the home, and you just envision your intention to be in harmony with your partner and to experience like immense joy, love, and fun together. Putting that into a singing bowl and then going around the whole home and just playing the singing bowl, allowing those blessings to flow. I did that one time, and my husband came home and we just had the best night ever. We just had fun, and we were both like in a state of joy and wanting to be in each other's presence. We felt that immediately of just going through the home and allowing those blessings, that intention to go in. It can be something like really intentional that you're wanting to experience or invite into your life, but it can also just be fun. Like, have fun with this process.
That's why the first thing I have anybody do is just get clear. Like clear
Mm,
whatever hasn't been working, neutralize the energy, and set goals and call in things from an empowered, neutral place. Hearing this, it's so true because this is meant to be fun. It's life. Like we were saying that you can choose anything you want for your home. You get to choose how you show up, express yourself. That vibration of joy is just so contagious. And then that just like transcends everything and it goes out into your life. That's one of the biggest things that I've been really encouraging people to go after this year is just making it their own and having more fun and trusting their intuition, in the process of the unfolding.
we got to take the pressure off ourselves. I've even found that within myself, where sometimes a perfectionist can come into play. We see this play out time and time again, like on social media, where we see these picture perfect homes, and being mindful, we're perfect just as we are. Our home is just as we are. And it's okay if it's not this HGTV perfection that you think you should have right now. Not that there's anything wrong with that either, but I've experienced where the moment we start looking at how others are perceiving us, that's where we can take a step back and come back into our power. Because that's a way where we give our power away and instead focus on what truly just makes us happy and lights us up. That's going to drive us and create just leaps and bounds in our everyday life, and how we get to just experience the blessings and joy of life more than anything.
We gave listeners the best tips, the entryway, then go, but also calling in if there's an area of your life where you feel like things haven't been working, maybe looking at a map and seeing where does this correspond on the map and setting your intentions for that area of your life in that part of your home. The third thing,
Mm.
making it fun and representative of you and not feeling like you need to do things a certain way. I felt so called to paint my bathroom green and I just did, and it makes me so happy. And I go, for me, it's felt like a way of reclaiming who I am and expressing it externally. I love that you brought it back to doing fun things. It doesn't have to be complicated. If you've never painted your life, it's actually not that hard. I never thought that I could do it. And I was like, this is actually enjoyable and fun. And even if I had to paint it back over white, it's really not that hard.
That makes me so excited for you that you just lean into that, said yes, and are flowing with it. Oh my goodness. You rock.
The most incredible conversations. Where can people find you if they're interested in learning more about your services and feng shui?
Absolutely. I'm actually going to share a link. This is going to go to my website, and there's a really helpful blog that I have where it has the Bagua map and it tells you how to lay out the Bagua map. And it also gives some manifestation tips as well. So it's going to be really helpful for people, especially if you're wanting to see, okay, what is my home telling me? How do I lay out the Boggle map so I can see how these areas of my life may be reflected in my home and starting to work from there? I really am looking forward to just hearing from people like how they like working with it. And then of course, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Natalie Jean LaBonte, and also at One Light Interiors for my interior design business. I'm really looking forward to hearing people's stories feng shui. And 2025 is going to be a powerful year for us all as we're in this year of completion numerologically. And it's going to be tremendous for every one of us.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of Princess Interrupted. I appreciate you being here so much, and we'll see you next week.